So straight from Lagos to down south in Nigeria, we go to the south-south. There's been this conversation about the LG allocations in various states. In fact, there's a report making the rounds also that some state governments are trying to manage how the Supreme Court ruling is executed. In Edo State in particular, we have a situation where the PDP in the state is asking that the federal government should do exactly what the Supreme Court told them not to do, which is to hold on to the funds of local government administrations. What all of that conversation is about, we'll find out in a moment.
An APC governor be the one to flout the directive or the desire of an APC president. We condemn all this in its totality. And I hereby calling on the House of Assembly to immediately recall this purportedly suspended council chairman so that governance at the grassroots level can resume peacefully. As we speak, no budget has been passed in any of the local governments in Edo State. That means any money spent as we speak is being spent illegally. While we commend the Attorney General of the Federation for standing on the path of the law, we also urge him to move beyond mere pronouncements and institute contempt proceedings against the Attorney General of Edo State for disregarding the Supreme Court ruling. The Edo case is a precedent that will derail the efforts and fights of the President in ensuring autonomy for the local councils. And lastly, in the absence of democratically elected council chairmen at the various councils in Edo State, we are calling on the Accountant General to halt all allocations to the state government through the Joint Account Allocation Committee as stipulated in the Supreme Court ruling.
Well, that's, of course, the angle of the PDP and its leadership. Well, the man whose name was mentioned is with us this morning. He's the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Edo State, Mr. Samson Osagi. He joins us virtually from Benin City in Edo State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Yeah. Well, I know that there is a state government reaction to the allegations and the issues raised. And also, of course, there's that statement from the governor's office some months ago about how the allocation is not, the allocation that has been given to Edo State through the local government has not been functional over over 1 or 2 years now. But then there is also that position of the PDP that whatever the government of Edo State today is doing is illegal and against the Supreme Court's position. What's your take?
I think that the PDP call is grossly misconceived. It's born out of ignorance of the law. And of course, it's just only symptomatic of the loss they have suffered in the election and the frustration they have continued to vent. To start with, I will speak on the legal implications of what the PDP has done. I heard the chairman of PDP Edo State, or is it caretaker chairman now? They don't have any substantive officer at any level. I heard him say that in the absence of any democratically elected local government chairman, then there can be no allocation. There should be no allocation to councils in Edo State. And to that extent, the Attorney General or the Accountant General to halt all such allocations. Let me draw your attention to Section 7 of the Constitution, which talks about the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils. Local government councils, not local government chairmen, is under the Constitution guaranteed. So the first point to be made is that PDP is ignorant of the provision of Section 7 of the Constitution. It did not talk about democratically elected local government chairmen. it talks about democratically elected local government council. And to that extent, let me say that in Edo State today, we have democratically elected local government councils because in the wake of the crisis that has led to the suspension of the chairman of local governments in Edo State on December 16, 2024, the leaders of the various legislative houses, legislative arm of all the local governments, became acting chairmen in line with the provisions of Section 10 of the local government law in Edo State. Don't forget that the same Section 7 also made it clear that the law made by states shall guarantee the existence of local government council and provide for the establishment, structure, composition, finance, and function. So the local government law in Edo State is extant and very applicable in this instant case. So in any case, as we speak, all the issues about the suspension of local government are matters before various courts across the country. At the last count, we have over 10 of such cases, which were filed in abuse of court process because they are doing forum shopping, looking for where they will get favorable judgment in their favor. So the point I want to make is that the governor of Edo State, and indeed the House of Assembly of Edo State, has violated no law, neither has it violated the Constitution in this whole exercise regarding local government. The governor did not dissolve the local government council. The House of Assembly did not dissolve the local government council. However, the suspension of the local government council follows the Section 78 of the Constitution, which gives the governor of the House of Assembly powers to cause inquiry to be made into the activities of the local government council. Now, the PDP does not even know whether there's any local government law that operates in Edo State. And the 78(1) of the local government law said that the governor or the House of Assembly may appoint committee to conduct inquiry into the activities of any local government in the state, provided that the governor and the House shall not institute inquiries at the same time. So they don't even know that under the law, which the Constitution gives power to Edo State House of Assembly to make in respect of local government, that inquisition can be conducted into the affairs of local government for the purpose of guaranteeing good governance. The Supreme Court judgment that the PDP talks about did not say that local government autonomy is absolute. Because when you talk of local government autonomy, you cannot say that the power state does not have power to conduct inquiries, because the Constitution gives power to states to make law. If the law made by the state said, governor of the House of Assembly can conduct inquiry into the...
My sincere apologies, Mr. Osage. Just a quick one. Just a quick one, if you can hear me. I'm glad that you are quoting from Section 7. And one of the issues that a good number of people have had about the 774 local government councils, administrations, whatever, in the country is that all of the provisions assigned to them are almost always obeyed in breach, depending on how it favors the state government or the governor of the day. For instance, sub 3 of Section 7 says it shall be the duty of a local government council within the state to participate in economic planning and development of the area referred to in subsection 2. There is also another part of the Constitution, this Constitution that we're talking about, that says that the local government has a responsibility to be a part of the economic activities of the state. In other words, they should sit at the same table with the government, the state government, to plan the state so that they are not at variance. But in most cases, it seems like the governor of a state is only interested in what he is interested in or she is interested in at any given point in time. In the case of Edo State, for instance, was there ever a time that the governor sat with this local government chairman and say, okay, let's have an economic activity, let's plan our state together?
Very much. My response to that is yes. You know, transition from one government to another took place on the 12th of November 2024. And indeed, it was a transition that was not in the tradition of one party handing over to the party. So the transition wasn't quite harmonious. It was a little bit acrimonious. So the other government left without making so much disclosure. That is a story for another day. Now, upon assumption of office, Governor Okpebholo had summoned twice or thrice a meeting with council chairmen. And at one of that meeting, in order to ensure that the governor have a clear picture of what is going on at the local government level, the governor, pursuant to Section 78 of the local government law, requested.
Mr. Osagi, just a second. That is not the question that I'm asking. The question that I'm asking is whether the state government, if you can hear me, Mr. Osagi, just a second.
And to that extent, they were expected
Mr. Osagi, can you hear me?
To submit provisions that about their budget, about their projects, and so on and so forth. That is legal because the local government law says so. Now, at that stage, the local government council chairman felt that they were autonomous, they were not going to be subject to being asked questions by the states. So if there must be a collaboration between states and local government, it does not mean that local government councils will not also subject themselves, at least out of respect, to the state government with
Mr.
respect
Osagi, just
to collaboration.
1 second. I think there is a misunderstanding of my intentions. Sorry if you can hear me. The point that I'm making is, it's not for the governor to question or query them first. The question that I'm asking is, was there ever a time they sat down together, not to query whether or not they're doing whatever? It's to first of all obey, facilitate. Just a second.
No, you can't.
Because you don't know.
You can't shut me down.
Can you at least listen
when a new government comes to office,
just listen to the question. We're not arguing.
What is on ground before it plans for the future.
We are not arguing. I'm asking a question. I'm asking, was there ever a time the governor sat with them and said, let's plan together, as opposed to asking questions and querying whether they've been effective or not? That's the question I'm asking.
Why would the governor not want to know what has been on ground before beginning the plan? Which government, who will want to start to build a house without first considering the cost? The governor had a duty to know exactly the development strides in the various local government and the challenges before they can start planning. He just came into office less than 4 months. I mean, you have to understand that a governor who means well, like Governor Okpebholo in Edo State, would like to know what their development plans and work has been, considering the over 95 billion they have received as at that time. Will it not amount to irresponsibility for a governor not to know how councils have used their money? Are councils not part of the state that he governs? So the question as to whether there was such a meeting for planning would only arise if they had cooperated with the governor to understand what they have been doing before he came into power, and then we'll take it from there. So the governor was ready to work with them, but the council chairmen were never prepared. So,
all right, Mr. Osagi, I want us to build on that picture of what's going on in Edo State, because last time, well, not the last time, but one of the things that we heard, was when the Attorney General himself said the removal of any official at the local levels is not the prerogative of the governor. In fact, he actually said it was illegal.
Correct. That is very correct, and I agree.
So he said that earlier. And then we're now hearing the People's Democratic Party saying that, listen, the people that are being paraded right now as local government chairmen are imposters. And they're saying that because they say, look, and you remember there was a protest 2 weeks ago against the suspension. I want to be able to know what kind of buildup has happened. You stated there, what the governor had asked for was their statement of account. Hold on a second. He had asked for their statement of account, and they said they hadn't given it to them. I want to be able to get a build-up on that. There was a panel of inquiry that was set up. What is the result of that panel of inquiry? Because that was what the protest 2 weeks ago was about. What is the result of the panel of inquiry that the governor has set up into those suspended local government officials? And then this whole situation, how is it impacting governance at the local levels? If the PDP is saying that the local government chairmen that you are parading right now are imposters.
We will take time to also listen to me because we have asked so many questions.
Yes.
First and foremost, like I told you, the whole build-up leading to the suspension was orchestrated by the refusal of local government council chairmen, to cooperate with the states. Because you can't have development without collaboration and cooperation among the tiers of government. That is one. Two, the PDP is talking about, is being sentimental and emotional. It's not about the law. The PDP cannot say those who are governing the local government council jobs now are impostors. because the law gives them power to take over where the chairmen are not available. We should be talking about what the law says. So the law is on the side of those who are running councils, and they are democratically elected. That is one. On the report of the panel of inquiry, yours truly, the Commissioner for Local Governments and a few others, are studying the final report with a view to advising government on what to do. But in the meantime, I have told you that these same chairmen have gone to court in several suits in abuse, gross abuse of court process, challenging the processes. In some of the cases, they have gotten some orders which have also been vacated. So there have been a number of issues that have happened. Now, you said the Attorney General said it is not the business of the state governor to remove any local government chairman. Entirely, that is the correct position of the law. And to that extent, the governor of Edo State, Governor Okpebholo, did not suspend or remove any local government chairman in Edo State. That is a matter of fact at the moment. So the issues are that what the Supreme Court said, local government have autonomy. It did not say that when there are evidences of corruption and sleaze, that states cannot exercise power over them. And that is what Section 78 of the local government law of Edo State is talking about. It looks like people don't want to know what the law is saying. They are talking about sentiments. And the local government councils are not synonymous with local government chairmen. If a local government chairman is suspended, that does not end the life of the council. There are other elected officials in the council that can run the local government council in accordance with the law. And that is where we are today. So it is not correct to say that the state is not doing the right thing in this regard. The governor is abiding by the rule of law. And once, whatever the outcome of the court cases are, we will abide. But at the end of the day, the report of the panel, which alleges gross misconduct arising from monumental financial impropriety, on the part of most local government. Are you aware that council's funds were being siphoned through the accounts of AGON, Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, Edo State branch? Those are part of the reports in Edo State, where over 10 billion naira over 20 billion were being paid into AGON accounts and siphoned for purposes that are not for the development of the councils. And I want to assure you that at the moment, governance at the grassroots in the Edo State is ongoing. They have started receiving their allocations. The council acting chairmen who are in place are drawing up their programs of action and budget before their legislative councils. And there is orderliness at the local government councils, and there is no interruption at all.
Mr. Sage, just so I can get that clarification from you, among the local government chairmen that were asked to submit the statement of accounts, are any of them still in office, serving as local government chairmen in Edo State?
I don't understand the question.
Of all the local government chairmen, the ones that were asked to submit the statement of account, because you said he didn't suspend any local government chairman, that the fact that the local government chairman is not in office doesn't mean that the council is invalid. I understand that. But my question is, the people, the local government chairmen from the 18 local government areas that were asked to submit statements of accounts, you're saying none of them did, they didn't want to work with him. Are any of them sitting in office right now as local government chairmen?
That question is contradictory in terms. You are aware that local government council chairmen were suspended. So why are you saying?
So why did you say? But you said just now that none of the local. That is wrong for us to say that the local government chairmen were suspended. That's what you said.
No, you don't understand me.
Okay.
I said the governor, in exercise of his power, did not. The House of Assembly did, in exercise of their powers, but the governor did not. That is a matter of fact. That's the point I'm making. Did Governor Okpebholo suspend or remove any council chairman in Edo State? The answer is no.
Okay.
He did not.
So who did?
It is the House of Assembly that exercises powers, because that is what the Attorney General said. And subsequent to that, all these council chairmen were impeached by their councillors. Are you not aware of that?
So my question really, with all of these things going on, so the people that are sitting in those offices right now as local government, and like I said, we're not arguing, we're having a conversation.
Yeah, this is where I talk. Sorry about that. This is where I talk.
It's fine. It's okay.
This is where I talk.
The local government, the people who are in those offices right now that the PDP are upset about, the FAC allocations are going directly to them. And who are they answerable to? The State Assembly as well, and the governor is supervising these ones. So you can understand where the PDP is saying these are imposters. If a panel of inquiry has been set up to investigate those local government chairmen that didn't submit the statements of account, the result, you said, I listened to you, you said you're still working on the result and a statement from that inquiry. So you can understand where the PDP will be looking at you and thinking, well, you're parading imposters and giving state funds to people who were not elected by the people. Does that make any sense to you, or are they totally wrong in their assertion?
I'm sure you are not the one who do not understand the issues,
okay,
and appear to be speaking from the prison of the PDP. The PDP is only talking sentiments, not law. And I said that if the PDP understands the law, they will know that from the get-go, the state government has powers to conduct inquiry into local government. And I have cited here section 78 of the local government law. That is one. Two, when you talk about the people who are parading themselves, as council chairmen, they are not people who are parading themselves. They were elected as councillors and they became leaders of their various legislative houses. And they were PDP candidates who were elected into office, not APC candidates. So these same people by law, section 10 or section 20 thereof, says that when the chairman and the vice chairman is not in office, the leader of the legislative arm shall take over the reins of government. So they cannot be impostors because they are not appointees, either of the governor or appointees of the House of Assembly. They were elected and they were candidates of the PDP while they were in government. So what are they talking about? The PDP is talking out of ignorance and out of sentiments. And what they are doing amount to gross abuse of court process, because all the issues they had press conference about are already submitted before courts of competent jurisdiction for adjudication. Okay. Why are they coming to the press to ask Accountant General, to ask Inspector General of Police, to ask AG to give to them what they are already asking the court to do? That is sub judice. Okay. They are not even sure whether they have justiciable matters or justiciable issues before the courts of law.
It is noted. Thank you very much, Mr. Osage. We do have to wrap it up there because we have to move on to something else. But I want to thank you for your clarification on a lot of the issues this morning. And good luck with all the work you would have ahead of you.
Thank you too, and keep doing your good work too.